Friends, let us be still for a moment. Just a breath. In this silence, the heart hears more clearly than the mind can argue. What if, let the one who is without sin cast the first stone, is not a moral gavel, but an unveiling of consciousness? What if the stone is the hardened idea of a separate self, and sin is the forgetting of our oneness with the infinite? The Master did not endorse wrongdoing, he dissolved the very illusion that makes condemnation feel holy. Stand in the light where there is no accuser and no accused, and you will find there is no stone in your hand to throw, only presence. Notice the oldest accusers left first. Heavy stones are forged by long habits. We carry them too, some for others, some for ourselves. Before you drop the one aimed at your neighbor, listen for the one you've been hurling at your own heart. In this next breath, dare to let it fall and see what remains when judgment melts into awareness. Because the real question is not, who deserves my stone, but who am I without a stone to hold? When the last stone falls, what kind of power, justice, and freedom appear? If this stirred something in you, like the video, comment the symbolic number 33 to say, I'm choosing presence over judgment. Subscribe and hit the bell so this message reaches more hearts ready to lay down their stones. To see it clearly, notice that a stone is simply earth compacted until it refuses to yield. So too the sense of me against you. Compressed beliefs, memories, and fears calcifies into a projectile we grip to protect a boundary. We think we are defending truth, but we are defending a self-image, a mask that survives by contrast. The moment I need you to be wrong so that I can be right, I have lifted a stone. The moment I need your flaw to secure my virtue, my hand has already tightened. Condemnation is how the separate self breathes. The stone forms from layers: unmet pain hardened into opinion, or inherited shame hardened into moral superiority, anxiety hardened into control. We polish it with stories. People like that never learn. I would never do such a thing. Someone has to set them straight. Each story makes the stone smoother in the palm, more satisfying to hold, easier to throw. Yet the weight you feel is not your neighbor's guilt. It is the density of identification, who you think you must be in order to feel safe, good and separate. Even piety can quarry stones. The ego loves a righteous cause because it gives shape to a fragile identity. It can be religious cause or secular crusade. The pattern is the same. The I is fortified by an enemy. But the Christ light does not fortify. It reveals the unreality of the very boundary that makes an enemy necessary. In that revealing, the hand opens without a command, just as darkness withdraws without a struggle when the lamp is lit. How do we recognize the stone in hand? Watch for urgency, for the heat that insists, this must be fixed now, and by me, and by force. Watch for the inner flinch that cannot bear to simply witness. Presence can look directly at error without the need to strike it. Presence illumines, striking only scatters fragments that cut everyone, including the thrower. The separate self throws to compress reality into a story it can manage. Presence allows reality to disclose itself, and in that disclosure, correction arises without violence. Notice the body. Judgment has a posture: jaw set, shoulders lifted, breath shallow, eyes narrowed. Awareness has a posture too. Jaw unclenched, belly soft, breath wide, gaze spacious. When you catch the posture of judgment, you are already standing outside it as the witness. That space is grace. In it you may feel the H beneath the anger, an old ache begging not for a target, but for tenderness. The stone begins to crumble when its hidden grief is met. None of this excuses harm. It unmasks the one who would punish in order to keep an identity. Real responsibility is born when we are no longer performing goodness for a mirror. Then guidance is clean. Say yes, say no, set a boundary, make amends. But do it as the light moving itself, not as an ego claiming victory. The hand that once clutched the stone becomes a hand that blesses without losing its strength. Look gently at the moments you most want to accuse. There you will find the contour of the self you're protecting. Let breath move through that contour. As breath widens, identity loosens, and the need to throw gives way to simple, luminous seeing now. And from that seeing, it becomes plain that what tradition names sin is not a permanent stain on a soul, but a moment of forgetfulness, a lapse in awareness of the one life being all. The ancient word means to miss the mark, and what is the mark but the center of our being where separation never was? Like a wave believing it is cut off from the ocean, we act out the drama of lack, fear, and control. The more we forget the ocean, the more violent the wave must be. The act that harms emerges from this sleep, but the sleep itself is the deeper error amnesia of identity in God. When we forget, we contract. The mind narrows into either, or the heart hardens into me versus you, and the nervous system prepares to strike or defend. From that contraction, we try to prove goodness by contrast, earn safety by superiority, and secure belonging by accusation. It is all compensation for a felt absence that is not truly absent, only unrecognized. Notice how the effort to be right multiplies rules and rituals while leaving the ache untouched. We polish conduct while the root remains hidden. That is why condemnation never heals. It reinforces the illusion that there is a separate me who can rise by lowering you. Remembrance is the medicine, or not performance, remembrance. The remedy to darkness is not moral wrestling with shadows, it is turning on the light. In spiritual language, this is repentance, not groveling, but a metanoia, a change of mind from fragmentation to wholeness. Be still and know is not a slogan. It is an instruction in returning to the center that was never lost. In the stillness where the self stops arguing, the heart knows its source, and in that knowing the compulsions born of forgetfulness begin to loosen without force. Practically, the moment you feel the push to judge or to justify, ask softly, "What have I forgotten right now?" Let the breath widen. Feel the ground beneath your feet. Sense that the very aliveness animating you is the same life in the one before you. You may still say no, draw a boundary, or seek repair, but the energy shifts from reactivity to clarity. Actions taken from remembrance have a different fragrance, clean, unhurried, and free of the secret need to make an enemy. Even the pain you name in another is met as pain, not as fuel for a separate identity. Consider the scene in the dust-covered courtyard. Accusers press in with law and fury. The master bends down and writes on the ground. He lowers the temperature of the moment into earth, into quiet, inviting remembrance to enter the space. "Neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more," is not a bargain, it is a revelation. When condemnation is absent, remembrance grows possible, and in remembrance the pattern that kept repeating loses power. Sin no more means do not fall back into forgetfulness of who and what you are, for in the light of who you are, that behavior cannot find roots. As this remembrance dawns, the very stage upon which accuser and accused seem to stand begins to look different, and the roles that felt necessary start to dissolve in a wider seeing in presence. The courtroom props look like cardboard, names, costumes, indictments, even the trembling defense. What remains is awareness itself unpartitioned, noticing sensations, thoughts, faces like waves rising and falling in a single sea. The one who points the finger and the one who feels pierced by it are movements inside the same field. When you rest as that field, not as the role, separation relaxes. The urge to accuse is seen as pain seeking relief, the urge to defend is seen as fear seeking shelter. Neither requires an enemy to justify its existence. Both require tenderness to complete their arc. Presence is not passive, it is the unopposed activity of truth. It reveals the fact that condemnation is a story layered on top of a sensation, a memory, or a value that matters to you. As the story loosens, what is essential speaks plainly. You may say, "This must stop," or "I will leave now," or "Here is the repair." But the voice is even, the body soft. The boundary clear without venom. Justice emerges as alignment, not as revenge. The heat reduces, and with it the theater of superior and inferior begins to fold. When attention abides as simple being, the inner prosecutor loses oxygen. Its case depends on time, a past to weaponize, a future to threaten. Presence is now. In now, facts can be acknowledged without the glue of shame. Responsibility becomes possible because identity is no longer at stake. You can own what you did without becoming what you did. Equally, you can hear another's pain without becoming their caricature of you. The courtroom empties, the light stays. Sometimes the collapse is felt somatically before it is grasped conceptually. The breath drops, the jaw loosens, the eyes widen. The body recognizes safety first. In that safety, the intelligence beyond analysis becomes available. Fresh responses appear that no script could predict. A sincere apology, a calm refusal, a creative alternative, a silence that ends the escalation. The accuser finds nobody to fight. The accused discovers nobody to defend. Only the situation remains, ready to be met by clarity. Notice how language shifts. That you always, and I never, soften into direct description. This happened, here is its impact, here is what will change. The removal of blame is not the removal of discernment, it is the removal of poison. Without poison, feedback can nourish. Without poison, consequences can teach. Without poison, mercy becomes strong enough to hold accountability without collapse. Presence does not erase differences, it right-sizes them within wholeness. In quiet prayer, this is palpable. You sit, feel the breath, and turn inward not to ruminate, but to consent to the light. As consent deepens, the imagined distance between you and the other thins. Perhaps a memory arises, and with it the very person you wanted to judge. In the brightness, you see their fear as you have seen your own. Something unclenches. You need not excuse or condemn. You simply know what is yours to say or do, and what is not. The stone has no hand to grip it when the hand is recognized as the light itself, and so it falls without drama, and in the quiet after it falls there is only the simple fact of being here together in this moment, and see how, in that simple being here, the oldest accusers begin to slip away, the entrenched habits of judgment that have lived in us so long they feel like truth itself. In the story, the elders depart first in us. The elder voices are the long, rehearsed conclusions. People like that never change. I must correct them or the world will fall apart. If I don't condemn, I condemn. These are the stones quarried from early fear, family rules, cultural scripts, and religious shame. They have authority not because they are wise, but because repetition has worn grooves in the mind and the body. We mistake familiarity for rightness. Old accusers are efficient. They arrive preloaded with certainty and urgency. They are binary, allergic to nuance. They speak in always and never, in should and must. They conflate discernment with superiority and consequence with punishment. They are kept alive by the nervous system's memory, a teacher's glare, a parent's scolding, a sanctuary that felt safer when someone else was being disciplined. Those sensations braided into stories, and the stories became reflex. When presence brightens, reflex loses fuel. The hand unclenches not through argument, but through lack of interest in the drama. Do not fight the accuser that feeds it. See it. Name it gently. The old prosecutor. Thank you for trying to protect me. I will listen without obeying. Ask it simple questions. Is this voice speaking about now? Is it quoting then? Is it defending love or defending an image of me? What would be left of this certainty if the body softened by 10%? The moment the body softens, oxygen returns to the brain, the amygdala eases, and other options become imaginable. Judgment cannot survive spaciousness, it requires the small room of reactivity. Practice interrupting the habit at the somatic level. 3 slow breaths through the nose, longer exhale than inhale. Feel your feet and the weight of your sitting bones. Let your gaze widen to include the periphery. This tells the organism, safe enough to see clearly. With that safety established, translate the accuser's message into its core value. It wants safety, order, fairness, belonging. Now you can honor the value without adopting the venom. You may still set a boundary, but the boundary will be clean, aligned with the value rather than powered by the habit. Ritual helps unseat old accusers. Hold a small stone each morning, name the judgment it symbolizes, feel the body posture that accompanies it, and then open the hand over a bowl and let it drop. Hear the sound. Say, "Not needed to be safe, not needed to be good." Over time, the nervous system pairs the release with relief. Neurons that fired together begin to wire differently. What was once automatic becomes optional. Because some accusers are inherited, confession becomes medicine, not as groveling, but as honest speech in safe company. Here is the judgment I keep rehearsing, here is the fear beneath it. Being witnessed without shaming deprives the habit of secrecy. In community, we learn to distinguish conviction from condemnation. Conviction says, "This harms, let us repair." Condemnation says, "You are harm, be erased." The first builds, the second breaks. Expect the elders to leave first the loud, obvious judgments. After they go, notice the younger accusers who whisper in virtuous tones, "I'm only being honest. I'm just holding a standard." These wear the clothes of care while smuggling in superiority. Meet them with the same clarity. Convert their energy into discernment. Let consequence remain and let contempt go. Stay with the breath as you do, and keep watching the space widen between the stimulus and the ancient urge to throw. And in that widening, justice begins to reveal itself as the movement of spirit rather than the reflex of condemnation. Condemnation seeks an object to negate so the separate self can feel tall. Spirit seeks alignment so love can flow unimpeded. Condemnation asks, "Who can we blame?" Spirit asks, "What restores truth, protects the vulnerable, and prevents further harm?" The difference is not softness versus strength, it is venom versus clarity. Spirit is not permissive, it is precise. Its precision is free of spite, you can feel the distinction in the body. Condemnation tightens the throat, sharpens the tongue, and hungers for spectacle. Spirit steadies the breath and quiets the theater. It moves with a plumb-line quality, straight, clean, without flourish. It says yes and no without humiliation. It names harm in plain words and pairs truth with consequence, not to crush a personhood, but to halt a pattern. If a boundary is required, it is enacted without glee. If repair is possible, it is pursued without bargaining. If removal is necessary, it is done without making a trophy of someone's failure. Think of a surgeon's scalpel and a vandal's knife. Both cut, only one heals. Spirit-led justice cuts to remove what injures life. Condemnation cuts to satisfy an agitation. The test is simple after the act. Is there more clarity, safety, and possibility for all involved, or more fear, confusion, and performance? Spirit leaves the space brighter even when the decision is hard. Condemnation leaves a residue that needs more drama to justify itself. One trusts reality to hold the outcome. The other needs an audience to keep its story alive. Spirit-led justice is anchored in three movements: truth, consequence, and mercy. Truth tells the whole of what happened without exaggeration or erasure. Consequence aligns cause and effect so learning is possible and safety is restored. Mercy recognizes the unbroken worth of the one who erred and the one who was harmed, refusing to reduce either to a single moment. Mercy does not cancel consequence, it cleans it. It removes the poison so the medicine can work. That is why a spirit-guided no has more power than a condemnatory shout. It carries the weight of reality rather than the weight of egoic heat. In relationships, this looks like clear boundaries spoken without character attacks. In communities and institutions, it looks like processes that center repair and protection rather than humiliation. Transparent standards, consistent follow-through, opportunities for restitution, safeguards for the vulnerable, and a path for transformation where possible. It resists the lazy outsourcing of righteousness to punishment alone. It asks, what would actually stop this harm and serve the wholeness of all? Sometimes the answer will be a firm separation, sometimes it will be structured support, sometimes it will be both. Spirit is not sentimental. It is faithful to life. How do you discern if you are in spirit rather than in condemnation? Listen for the motive. If you secretly need the other to be small so you can feel pure, that is condemnation. If you are willing to do the same act in silence, without applause or an enemy to oppose, that leans toward spirit. Notice tone, fewer adjectives, more facts. Notice pace, less rush, more steadiness. Notice aftermath. Do you feel settled and available to care, or inflamed and hungry for more punishment? Spirit satisfies, condemnation stimulates. Spirit produces humility in the agent of justice. Condemnation produces self-importance in the thrower of stones. All of this begins within. The most immediate jurisdiction is your own inner court. If the judge inside is punitive, the sentences you hand down to others will mirror that harshness. If the inner judge is awake to love, truth will not be compromised, and neither will the dignity of anyone involved. Before you speak judgment outward, let the light review the case inwardly. Often you will find the verdict changes, the sentence changes, or the entire proceeding is dismissed for lack of separation, and from that interior realignment, outer action grows clean, necessary, and free of the need to prove a self right by making another wrong. Which is why the practice must begin where the hand first tightens, where the breath first shortens, where the stone first appears within, and why the release must happen there first, so the practice is plain and immediate before any outward word is spoken. Turn inward and feel where the stone first appears. It shows up as a contraction, a hot spot in the chest, a knot in the stomach, a tightening in the jaw, a sentence that rushes to the tongue. Name it gently, the stone is here. Don't argue with it, hold it in awareness the way you would hold a fragile bird. Sense its weight, its temperature, the story it borrows to justify itself. Let the fact of its presence be enough to begin the unclutching. Breathe. 3 quiet breaths, each exhale longer than the inhale. Soften the belly by 10%. Unhinge the jaw, let the tongue rest on the floor of the mouth. Widen the gaze so the periphery comes online. Feel the soles of your feet, the chair under you, the support that is already given. Whisper inwardly, I consent to presence. I am willing to see this without a stone. Ask, what have I forgotten right now? Don't search for an answer. Feel for the subtle drop in speed as memory of wholeness returns and the urgency to perform goodness loosens. Inquire with kindness. What am I protecting? What pain am I refusing to feel? What value is actually trying to speak through this heat? If there were no audience to impress or oppose, what would love do here? Who am I without the story that makes an enemy necessary? These are not tricks, they are keys. Wait for the body's reply, the sigh that arrives unbidden. The shoulders falling, the heart's ache coming forward. Meet the H instead of throwing it. Often the stone crumbles the moment the feeling it hid is welcomed into the light. Make it tangible. Keep a small pebble nearby. When you notice the inner clench, take the pebble into your palm, feel the grip, then open your hand over a bowl of water and let it drop. Listen to the sound. Watch the ripples. Breathe with the rings as they widen. Pair the release with relief so your nervous system learns that safety increases when the hand opens. The symbol trains the body in what the spirit already knows. Translate heat into clarity. Write down the clean boundary or truthful statement shorn of venoms. When X happens, I will do Y. Keep adjectives to a minimum. Practice saying it with an even tone and a soft jaw. If the heat returns, your early pause again. The stone falls in stages, and each stage changes the quality of your voice. You are not trying to be nice. You are consenting to be true without cruelty. In live conflict, buy yourself a breath. Place your fingertips lightly on your sternum under the table. Feel the warmth. Say inwardly, let only what is aligned speak. Take a sip of water. If possible, step outside for 30 seconds and look at the sky. Return when your vision has widened enough to include the other as a being. If words must be spoken, let them be simple and specific. If silence will do, let it do. Afterward, review without self-beating. Where did the hand tighten? What was the earliest cue I ignored? Where did I drop the stone even a little? Celebrate micro releases so your system craves them. Replace the sugar high of righteousness with the nourishment of alignment. Journal one sentence you will try next time that is cleaner, briefer, truer. For chronic stones, visit the origin. Sit quietly and invite the first memory that carries the same flavor: shame, helplessness, invisibility. Hold that younger you in imagination. Promise I will not throw you at anyone to feel safe. Stay here with me. Let tears come if they want. This is not regression, it is rescue. As the old charge is met, fewer situations will recruit it. Practice in community. Share the trigger and the value beneath it with a trusted friend. Let them mirror the value back to you without commentary. Agree on a cue, a hand to heart, a breath you take together. When you are about to lift a stone in each other's presence, make it normal to pause, to reset, to restart a conversation after the hand opens. Build a daily liturgy. Morning before phone or news, 5 minutes of stillness, one clear intention today, open hand. Midday, 1 minute of breath and a quiet check in where is the stone now. Evening, a brief examine. When did I accuse? When did I remember? Place the pebble by your bed as a witness. On difficult days, carry it in your pocket and practice releasing it without drama again and again, until the muscles of the soul prefer openness to armor, and the next word that rises comes from the wider place you have tasted, ready to speak only as far as love requires.